what have you liked about your team's defensive play?
Well, I think it's there's been a commitment to that side of the puck. I think we've gotten really good goaltending performances. I think our penalty kill's coming. And but I would say the biggest thing is it's been a 20-man commitment to keeping the puck out of the net.
Can you update us on Evander Kane's availability tonight?
Yeah, he will not be playing tonight.
Okay. And is this something you guys were aware was coming ahead of?
Yep. Yeah, we're well aware of that. Yeah.
Just in terms of tonight's game and with this opponent, I know, sometimes these can be sneaky games, but what's your messaging to your group about, respecting the opponent regardless of standings and positioning? And do you think your group is ready for that?
Well, I would point to a few things. One is that we're in a very competitive division where it seems like the teams we're going up against are gaining points on a nightly basis. So it's imperative that we take care of our own business on a day in, day out basis. We're trying to collect points every single time they're up for grabs. The other thing I would say is I've watched a lot of Columbus's games this year, and I see a team with some dangerous players on it, a team that they have skill and a work ethic about them, that if you're not prepared to play a hard game, they can make you pay. And we're going to have our hands full with a really game and competitive Columbus Blue Jackets team tonight.
Jay, this team struggled a little bit, letting leads slip in third period, leads slip and stuff like that. But it seemed to turn around after that Vegas game. You guys really shut them down. What has been the difference right now? It looks like the team's playing with a different sort of confidence going into third with the lead, where they're closing out games now, where before a couple let slip.
Yeah, I would say, and we've talked about this in this room a few times, if you watch the NHL, even last night there were a couple. This year it seems like no lead is safe anywhere in the NHL, not just in the province of Alberta. It's something that is league-wide. I think it speaks to the parity in the league, the skill level of teams in the league, that you're never out of it. That's one thing. I think for us, as we move forward and move down the stretch here, that's something where we put a lot of important emphasis is, number one, finding a way to get the lead, and then playing the right way when you do have the lead. I think some of the, events that you're talking about that occurred earlier in the year, at the time, they're painful to go through, but they're great learning moments. And I think we're trying to have our eyes open and our ears open and learn from the moments when they present themselves. And over this last little run, I think we've done a good job of closing teams out.
Jay, especially when it comes to your players that you had in Bakersfield, I know you like to talk about kind of developmental steps or landmarks along the way that they hit. When it comes to Stuart Skinner, was there any point in his development, or what point in his development, I guess I should say, did you feel like he had the potential to be an all-star?
Well, I never had the thought that he'd go to the NHL All-Star game. I didn't put a limit on it. I just didn't think like that. I felt right from the first time I got to see him that he had some attributes of a really good NHL goaltender. Big, has a level of athleticism to him, in great shape, technically very sound. I think along the way, along his journey, he really grew in other parts of his game, specifically on the mental side, the ability to handle a big workload, an ability to go through this early adulthood while shouldering the huge responsibility of being a starting goaltender in the American League. It wasn't always smooth for him. And when I say that, he spent a good amount of time in the East Coast Hockey League. But in his first year, I remember putting him in the second round of the playoffs. I think he played 3 games in that year. Even his next season, when he was leaned on heavily, He still went back to the East Coast League to work on his game. In his third year, he drove our team to win our last game of the year. So I've seen him hit a lot of stages along the way. He has a maturity about him. And I think the most important thing is that his teammates believe in him.
It seemed like, as you maybe alluded to in your answer there, partway through his time in Bakersfield, he went from being kind of inconsistent to the switch, maybe flipping, or him becoming a lot more consistent. What went into that, and do you feel like he's got that under wraps now?
Yeah, I think part of it comes down to experience. The American Hockey League's a really good league, so the more experience you gain, the more comfortable you feel. The year that he really took off and drove our team, you know, that was the pandemic year. And he actually started up here for a little bit, and then he came down to the American League, and he took off and drove our team to win our last game of the year on May 31st, I think it was. And so the switch, I think it comes down to experience. I think he's methodically went about trying to build his game each and every year, and it's a credit to him.
So, off the ice, completely nothing to do with how Stuart Skinner plays.
Yep.
What kind of guy is he? Who is he?
I think someone who's very mature for his age. I think he's relatively quiet in my experience around him, but confident. I remember, I'll tell you a story, during that playoff run in Bakersfield, which was the first time that team in Bakersfield had made the playoffs, and we had a goaltender there who had made the All-Star team. And I remember Stuart wasn't even backing up. He was the third guy that year on our playoff run. And I remember him talking to our goalie coach down there, Sly Rodriguez, and then knocking on my door and asking what it was going to take to get into a game. And you know, the message to him at that point was that we had confidence in him and that his job was to make sure he was ready when he got the tap. And sure enough, the way that playoffs went, he found himself playing in the second round, 3 games. So I see a quiet confidence about him. I see somebody who instills confidence or belief from into the team. I see someone who his teammates play hard for. So what type of guy is he? To me, he's a good example of what a great teammate is.